Hey everyone, I'm Toma, and this is a review I've been waiting to do for a long time. This is my review of Captain America Civil War. A lot of people, including myself, have been looking forward to Captain America Civil War for a very long time now because 1, it's superheroes fighting, who wouldn't want to see that? 2, it's following up Captain America the Winter Soldier in a trilogy of Captain America movies, written and directed by the same people, which is regarded as one of the best, if not the best MCU movie of all time. And 3, although I really liked Avengers Age of Ultron, a lot of people were disappointed with that movie and wanted to see if Marvel could make up for it with this movie. And for those people, I'm pretty sure they think it did. People say that this movie is what Avengers Age of Ultron should have been. And although I really like that movie, this works as a really good Avengers sequel, as well as a really great Captain America movie. It ties together the trilogy perfectly and works really well in all aspects. I'm really happy with this movie. It's amazing. Is it better than Winter Soldier? I wouldn't say that much because I think there are some problems with this movie that keeps it from being the best, but it's easily the second or third. Well, I say that this trilogy of Captain America movies can be one of the best superhero trilogies of all time. A good comparison to this could be the Iron Man trilogy, which is a trilogy that didn't work as well. Because although the first Iron Man was really good, the second Iron Man was terrible. The third Iron Man was a big improvement, and I enjoyed that movie, but that also had a bunch of flaws in this. The Captain America movies are a group of movies that slowly got better and better, and I am so glad with how this turned out. If this is the last Captain America movie, I am satisfied. This was a great ending to the trilogy, and you should totally check this out. Now, what really makes this movie work is the premise, because it's not just superheroes fighting. It's about the clashing of ideals, as the government is making superheroes register to keep on being superheroes, basically, as there's causing a lot of collateral damage and lives being lost. And it's showing how the different ideals between Tony Stark, who's for the registration, as he's seeing all the lives being lost and wonder if the Avengers need to be held accountable for this. And he really doesn't want all these deaths to be on their hands, and because they know that the Avengers can be dangerous, and Captain America is against it because he believes that they have their certain amount of freedom and they don't want to lose their right of choice. And he believes that even if they're under the government, they won't be able to do what they need to do. And it's very interesting because there's no wrong side to this. You can either agree with one side or the other. It really works either way. And that's what makes this so good, seeing the different heroes go on each side, which makes it a million times better when you see them fight because they're fighting for something. And I thought it really worked in this movie. Now, the advantage of having multiple Marvel movies is that you get to really evolve the characters. And I think they do a really good job in this movie specifically of both evolving the character of Captain America and Iron Man. Captain America, I think, really worked as him fighting for his ideals, as he really believes that superheroes can't be restrained on what they need to do, as that will cost lives. But on the other side, you also understand Iron Man's thing, as he doesn't want lives to be lost in the damage of all these battles, as that's illustrated perfectly on how when he's confronted by a mother whose son died in one of the incidents, and especially illustrated when General Ross shows off all these examples of how, if throughout the movies, of how people die. Like in New York, when all those aliens crashed, a lot of people died. When the helicarrier crashed in Washington and Winter Soldier, a lot of people died. And it keeps happening more and more, and especially in the beginning of this movie, an incident happens that definitely puts this thing into motion, and you see tons of people died, and you can understand both points of view very well, and you don't really see a right or wrong in this situation. But one thing that definitely goes between them is Bucky, who is coming back and he's starting to regain his memory. Should he be held responsible for what he did? Because he did a lot of terrible stuff, but also he was brainwashed to do those things. So should he really be held responsible? And there's also that's being debated. There's just a lot of political things being debated on whether they should sign this registration, on whether people could die if they're not held responsible and just go on saving people whenever and destroying more property and killing more people. Or they're under the government and maybe, yeah, they save people when they're sent out, but if they aren't sent out when they should be, then people would die. But what if they're sent out when they shouldn't and people die? So it's very a hard dilemma for you to choose who to side with, because both have their pros and cons. And it's a very interesting political movie that goes along with it and gets you invested in it. I very much like this tone of this movie, as once again, it has a good amount of humor, so it's not super serious or anything, but it does keep a normal, serious tone throughout the movie, just humor mixed into it. And I think that really works well for it, because I don't need humor all the time, but it's nice to get a joke once in a while. And yeah, I like movies that can be serious for the whole movie once in a while, but I do like getting a superhero film with casual jokes around, but without them being slid in every 5 seconds. Now, the action in this movie is phenomenal. I'm not going to spoil any of the action because this is a non-spoiler review, but it's incredible. There's a sequence where they're all fighting, which is not a spoiler because it's Civil War. You know they were all going to fight. And it's just incredible just seeing all these superheroes fight, because we've seen superheroes fight in a lot of these movies, and it's not something totally new, but just seeing a whole battle between superheroes is amazing. The opening action sequence, that is great. All the climax of the movie is really good. It's just good action all around, and I'm really glad because these people are very well at coordinating action, and it's not all CGI. Of course, being a comic movie, especially with very large characters, there's going to have to be CGI, but there's also a lot of stunt work that makes you feel like it's actually happening and works really well, which I'm glad that they did that. But also the CGI looks phenomenal, like Marvel movies always make it. So I'm glad of that. Now, another thing that does make this plot work really well is it's not just ideals clashing, it's the fact that these are all friends that are fighting, and how they have been friends for a very long time, and seeing how they have to pick and choose which ones to side with. One line that very illustrates this very enough, when Cap is trying to defend Bucky and he says, "I'm sorry, Tony, but he's my friend." And just Tony says, "So was I." Kind of just like the last line in Winter Soldier where he's like, "I'll stay with you to the end of the line." It just gets to you right there. Now, I like how all these people have divided on their sides, and there's just a lot of drama having to betray their friends, especially with Black Widow, as she's on Iron Man's side, as she said that they've made a lot of public mistakes and they need to remedy that, but she's also being a very good friend of Cap. She's very divided on this. I like how the side characters are more developed, like how Scarlet Witch and Vision, I like their introduction into Age of Ultron and very much like their characters in that, but I felt they were more developed in this movie and you knew them a little more. I also really like Sam Wilson, aka the Falcon. I think Anthony Mackie does a really good job with this character, and both him and Bucky feel like really good, genuine friends of Captain America. And they do more with his fighting style, because in the Winter Soldier, all he really did was fly around and shoot people, which was really cool to see, but this time he actually propelled himself into people to kick them. And I think Bucky also did a lot of cool things. Like, he has a fighting style very similar to Captain America, except he has that really cool metal arm that he can really beat people up with. I think they both really work as friends to Captain America, and I like that little rivalry they kind of have here and there. Next character I think we could talk about is Tony's best friend, James Rhodes / War Machine. I really liked Don Cheadle. I thought he has really good chemistry with Robert Downey Jr. I think this is the first movie since Iron Man 2 he's been allowed to actually do something, because, well, Terrence Howard played him in Iron Man. He did some things in Iron Man 2, he did nothing in Iron Man 3, almost nothing in Avengers Age of Ultron, so he actually did some stuff in here, and I also really think that chemistry transfers over and we get a little more character from him. But he was fine in the movie. There's some characters that have pretty small amount of screen time, but still I really liked having in this movie, like Hawkeye and Ant-Man. Those two show up, and they don't have a ton of screen time, but enough to make them work, and they have their cool scenes here and there. In fact, the only heroes that aren't here are Thor and Hulk, which really remedies the plot hole of we're all the Avengers, because that was a big plot hole throughout most of Phase 2. But we know that Thor's in Asgard, and Hulk went into space at the end of Age of Ultron. So we know where all the Avengers are, and that's nice. So let's talk about some of the new characters. Black Panther I thought was really well done. They definitely captured his acrobatic but vicious fighting style really well. His costume looks amazing. Chadwick Boseman did an amazing job on this character. Of course, another character that everyone was super excited to see was Peter Parker slash Spider-Man. And I think Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man ever. And first of all, it's because he's a teenager, actually. Because although I liked Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, you could obviously tell they were adults when they were making those movies. This is an actual teenager, and he feels like an actual teenager. And when you first see him, he is being Spider-Man, a superhero and all, but he's pretty poor and has a pretty crappy costume, and he's just trying to do what he can with what he has. But of course, the costume they actually give him is amazing. It's probably one of the best costumes, except maybe for the original Sam Raimi trilogy. And the Amazing Spider-Man 2 costume, although that movie's not very good, the costume was really good in that movie. But overall, this costume looked new, but still classic. And I definitely like they kept the sense of humor of Spider-Man. They made sure to keep him smart. Tom Holland did an amazing job with this character. One problem I had with Winter Soldier was I didn't care too much for Agent 13, and her character's a little more developed in this, but I think she has even less to do in this one. But overall, the relationship between her and Captain America are done a little better. It was nice to see General Ross again, even though now he's Secretary Ross, because I actually like to know that they're actually saying that the Incredible Hulk existed, because I really like that movie and I think it's underrated. Overall, seeing how this is a non-spoiler review of the movie, I can't say much more about it. Talking about all the spoilers of the movie later, but overall, I really like this movie. I'm not sure if it's better than Winter Soldier, but overall, I still really like this movie, and it gets 9 out of 10. Go see this movie. Make sure this makes all the money, because Marvel deserves it, the Russo brothers deserve it, and you need to do this for Captain America. Well, that was my review of Captain America Civil War. Bye.